Part 1. Where It All Begins. Chapter 1. Origins of the Medical Medium. When this book was first published, I revealed truths you couldn't learn anywhere else. You wouldn't hear them from your doctor, read them in other books, or find them on social media. These are prophecies that had not yet surfaced, and that I was bringing to light for the first time. Since the initial publication of Medical Medium, how medical communities view symptoms, conditions, illness and disease has finally started to change due to the original and unique information in this book and the rest of this series. The information here has propelled both alternative and conventional medicine in a new direction. It has opened the door for medical communities to finally start awakening to the widespread effect of viruses on the global population. This book has become a reference guide in doctors' offices around the world. I'm not a physician. I have no medical training, yet I can tell you things about your health that no one else can. I can give you advanced medical information that's decades ahead of medical research and science, so you can finally get clarity on chronic and mystery illnesses that doctors often misdiagnose, treat incorrectly, or tag with certain labels even when they don't truly understand what causes the symptoms. Since I was a young child, I've been helping individuals heal with insights I'm about to share. Now it's time for you to learn how to use these powerful healing tools and secrets. It's how Spirit of Compassion has told me it's meant to be. An unexpected guest. My story begins when I'm 4 years old. As I'm waking up one Sunday morning, I hear an elderly man speaking. His voice is just outside my right ear. It's very clear. He says, "I am the Spirit of the Most High. There is no spirit above me but God." I'm confused and alarmed. Is someone else in my room? I open my eyes and look around, but don't see anybody. Maybe someone's talking or playing a radio outside, I think. I get up and walk to the window. There are no people. It's too early in the morning. I have no idea what's going on, and I'm not sure I want to. I run downstairs to be with my parents and feel safe. I don't say anything about the voice. But as the day goes on, a feeling builds up that I'm being watched. In the evening, I settle into my chair at the dinner table. With me are my parents, my grandparents, and some other family members. As we're eating, I suddenly see a strange man standing behind my grandmother. He has grey hair and a grey beard and is wearing a brown robe. I assume he's a family friend who's come to join our meal. Instead of sitting down with us, though, he keeps standing behind my grandmother and looking only at me. When none of my family reacts to his presence, I slowly realize that I'm the only one who sees him. I look away to see if he'll disappear. When I look back, he's still there, staring at me. His mouth doesn't move, but I can hear his voice by my right ear. It's the same voice I heard when waking up. This time he says in a calming tone, "I am here for you." I stop eating. "What's wrong?" my mum asks. "You're not hungry?" I don't answer, just keep looking at the man who lifts his right arm and waves for me to come over to my grandmother. Feeling an undeniable instinct to follow his instruction, I climb out of my chair and walk to Grandma. He takes my hand and puts it on my grandmother's chest while she's eating. Grandma backs away with a start. "What are you doing?" she asks. The grey man looks at me. "Say lung cancer." I'm at a loss. I don't even know what lung cancer means. I try to say it, but it comes out as a mumble. "Do it again," he tells me. "Lung Lung, I say. Cancer. Cancer, I say. My entire family is staring at me now. I'm still focused on the grey man. Now say, Grandma has lung cancer. Grandma has lung cancer, I say. I hear a fork clatter on the table. The grey man pulls my hand from Grandma and gently places it at my side. Then he turns and starts climbing steps that weren't there before. He looks back at me and says, "You will hear from me all the time, but you may never see me again. Not to worry." He continues climbing until he steps through the ceiling of my house, and now does disappear. My grandmother stares at me. "Did you say what I thought you said?" There's a panic at the table. What just happened doesn't make sense for a number of reasons, starting with the fact that, as far as we know, Grandma is fine. She hasn't noticed any problems or seen any doctors. The next morning I wake up and hear the voice again. "I am the spirit of the Most High. There is no spirit above me but God." Just like the previous morning, I look around but don't see anyone. From that day on, the same thing happens every morning without fail. Meanwhile, my grandmother is shaken by what I said to her. Even though she feels fine, she makes an appointment for a general checkup. A few weeks later, she visits her doctor and a chest X-ray reveals that she has lung cancer. The voice. As the mysterious visitor continues to greet me every morning, I start to pay attention to what he sounds like. His crystal clear voice is somewhere between baritone and tenor, a bit on the low side, but not very low. It has depth and resonance. Even though he's near my right ear, his speech has the stereo effect of surround sound. The visitor is loudest in the morning. It's hard to gauge his age. Sometimes he sounds like an exceptionally strong, healthy 80-year-old, matching the grey man I saw at dinner. At other times, he sounds thousands of years old. You might say he has a soothing voice, yet constantly hearing a voice is hard to get used to. The voice isn't internal. It's not thoughts I'm thinking. It's not my own inner voice. I can separate my own thoughts from the voice I hear. It's a voice that comes from an outside source directly above my right ear, as if someone were standing next to me. I can't will it to go away. I can physically block it. When I put my hand in front of my ear, I can make the voice sound very faint. As soon as I move my hand away, he's at full volume again. I ask him to stop talking to me. At first I'm polite about it, then I'm not. It doesn't matter what I say, though. He talks whenever he wants to. Spirit of compassion, Spirit of the Most High. I start calling the voice by name, Spirit of the Most High. Sometimes I call him Spirit for short or Most High. By age 8, I hear Spirit continually throughout the day. He tells me about the physical health of anyone I encounter. No matter where I am or what I'm doing, I'm told about the aches, pains, and illnesses of whoever's nearby, and also what the person needs to do to become better. The relentlessness of this ongoing and intimate information is extremely stressful. I ask Spirit to stop telling me these things I don't want to know. "We're not here on this earth very long," Spirit says. "We can't waste any time." He tells me that he's trying to teach me as much as possible in the short time we have together, and that we can't spare a moment. Hearing this devastates me. Somehow I believed that life is so long that it feels like we live forever. I feel my childhood slipping away with the grim reality of this truth Spirit has just shared. When I tell Spirit this job is too demanding, he ignores me. I learn that I can engage in some conversation with him, though. I'm old enough to pose some fundamental questions, so I ask, who are you? What are you? Where did you come from? And why are you here? Spirit replies, first I will tell you what I am not. I am not an angel, and I'm not a person. I was never a human being. I'm not a ghost or a spirit guide either. I am a word. I blink fast, trying to take this in. All I can think to ask is, which word? Spirit replies, compassion. I'm not sure how to respond, but I don't need to. Spirit keeps talking. I am literally the living essence of the word compassion. I sit at the fingertip of God. Spirit, I don't understand. Are you God? No, the voice replies. At the fingertip of God sits a word, and that word is compassion. I am that word, a living word, the closest word to God. I shake my head. How can you be just a word? A word is an energy source. Certain words hold great power. God pours light into words such as I, and instills us with the breath of life. I am more than a word. Is there anyone else like you? I ask. Yes. Faith, hope, joy, peace, and more. They are all living words, but I sit above all of them because I am the closest to God. Do these words speak to people too? Not as I do to you. These words are not heard by the ear. They live in each person's heart and soul, as do I. Words such as joy and peace do not stand alone in the heart. They require compassion to be complete. Why can't peace be enough by itself? I ask. Many times since Spirit entered my life, I've wished for peace and quiet. Compassion is the understanding of suffering, Spirit replies. There is no peace, joy, or hope until those who suffer are understood. Compassion is the soul of these words. Without it, they are empty. Compassion fills them with truth, honor, and purpose. I am compassion, and no other sits above me but God. Trying to make sense of this, I ask, then what is God? God is a word. God is love, which is above all other words. God is also more than a word because God loves all. God is the most powerful source of existence. People can love, but people do not love all others unconditionally. God does. It's too much for me to process. I end the conversation with one personal question. Do you talk to anyone else? Because if you do, I'm thinking, I'm going to seek them out so I don't have to feel so alone. The angels and other godly beings look to me for guidance. I provide all who care to listen with the lessons and wisdom of God, says Spirit of the Most High, who I realize is Spirit of compassion. But on earth I speak directly only to you. Me and my shadow. As you might imagine, this is a lot to absorb at age 8. Being able to hear a voice from above clearly at all times and freely engage in conversation with it is a different experience entirely from those who call themselves mediums. What distinguishes it further is that the voice speaks outside the ear, so that it's an independent source separate from my thoughts. It's essentially having someone follow me around everywhere, someone who keeps telling me things I really don't want to hear about the health of everyone around me. The upside is Spirit of Compassion provides me with medical information that's incredibly advanced, decades ahead of its time, more advanced than any medical community or health source for chronic illness. Plus, I'm regularly informed about my own health, which is a great rarity. Spirit of Compassion shares much more than only health and medical information. He provides me with insights into how the world works on a level beyond what anyone knows about the planet, the universe, and life beyond planet Earth. Spirit tells me about ancient civilizations and what sits undiscovered at the bottom of our oceans. He tells me about worldly deceptions created by people of evil nature, and about deceptions of global industries that affect the population's health. He tells me about environmental shifts, what the planet is up against, and future setbacks that could affect many people. These are all things I cannot change. Spirit teaches me that we don't have control over the free will of those who wreak havoc on this planet out of greed and game. Where I can make a difference is helping people find answers, gain health benefits, and get their lives back, so they can lead happier, healthier lives and at least have peace within themselves. Although by this point I know that Spirit of the Most High is the living essence of the word compassion, it can be hard for me to stay open to the name Spirit of Compassion. I witness Spirit's level of compassion for others, for their suffering and struggles and what they need. Where is the compassion for me, I wonder, when I have to take on such responsibility at such a young age? I want some of Spirit of Compassion's focus and loving nature for my childhood self. I want restorative time with Spirit, and that's very limited. Anyone who's with me, Spirit's focus is on them. The more people I'm around, the more is required of me. Even when I get alone time with my parents, Spirit of Compassion prompts me to focus on what's going on with them. Only periodically do I catch short moments of one-on-one time with Spirit of Compassion for comfort and reassurance that he cares about me. Spirit does assure me that he has compassion for me, although as an 8-year-old, I don't have the perspective and acceptance yet to see or feel that fully. What I feel is a weight on my shoulders on an hour-by-hour, sometimes second-by-second basis, depending on how much work is involved in having to see the world suffering and focus on everyone besides myself at any given moment. I switch off on what I call Spirit. Some days I'm more open and call him Spirit of Compassion. Other days, when the inner struggle of hearing a voice and the harsh reality of spending my waking hours with that voice, focused on everybody around me, weighs heavily, I call him Spirit of the Most High. Spirit tries to influence me to use my free will wisely. When I'm still 8 years old, I spend a week building a dam in a stream by my house. Spirit tells me it's a bad idea, that it will flood the neighbor's lawn. It'll be fine, I say. Then a downpour comes, the stream rises, and it floods the neighbor's lawn. As the man from the house yells at me, I hear in my ear, "I told you, you didn't listen to me." Spirit is constantly watching my every move and telling me what I should and shouldn't do. It makes having any kind of normal childhood impossible. That same year I build the dam, I know in great detail about the physical and emotional health of my friends and even my teacher, who's struggling through an awful relationship with her boyfriend. I absorb every bit of it, which is overwhelming and distressing. That year, Spirit tells me that a classmate is coming down with meningitis. I tell the teacher, who calls the boy to her desk and asks, "Do you have meningitis?" He's never heard the word before and doesn't know what it means. "Well, he's going to get it soon, even if he doesn't have it this second," I say. My teacher is alarmed at such a serious accusation, so she calls our parents and sends us both to the school nurse. When the nurse takes our temperatures, they come back normal. Soon my classmates' parents and my mum arrive. Along with my teacher, we all head to the principal's office, where a big discussion begins. "Does he have meningitis?" the adults ask each other. "Where would he get it?" "No," they agree. "We don't have any idea how he could have gotten it." "Well," I say, echoing my earlier words, "I believe he's going to come down with it." My mum knows my history, so she recognises this is very possible and sticks up for me. There's a good chance this will happen. The other adults question me. Were you around anyone who had meningitis? I tell them no. Soon the meeting ends and my classmate, teacher and I return to class. The next day, my classmate isn't in school. The teacher was informed that he's in hospital with a temperature of 104 degrees and a case of meningitis. With experiences like this, it's getting to the point where I'm lacking the time and energy to focus on myself. I even find it possible to lose myself with the amount of incoming information and detail about everyone else's lives. As I feel my freedom disappear, Spirit gives me words of hope and kindness, yet is always honest and forthcoming. Spirit tells me to expect worse, and that we will get through it. Your biggest challenges are yet to come. What do you mean? I ask. Only 1 or 2 people per century are given this gift, he says. It is not a typical intuitive or psychic ability. It is something that most fail to survive. You will find it almost unbearable not to be able to live like a normal person, never mind a normal teenager. Eventually, you will see almost nothing but the suffering of others. You will somehow have to find a way of becoming comfortable with that. Otherwise, the chances are you will end your life. Reading bodies. Spirit of compassion becomes both my best friend and my albatross. I appreciate that he's training me for a job God has chosen for me. Still, the responsibility is immense. One day he tells me to go to a large, beautiful cemetery near my home. I want you to stand over that grave, he says, and figure out how the person died. That's quite a request to make of an 8-year-old. At this point, though, I've been so bombarded with the health information of both friends and strangers that I try to view this as just one more case. And with Spirit's help, I'm able to do what he asks. This adds another dimension to the gift. Not only does Spirit verbally inform me of what's wrong with someone's health, he also helps me visualize physical scans of the person's body. I spend years of my childhood in different cemeteries, performing this exercise with hundreds of corpses. I become so good at it that I can almost instantly sense if someone's died of heart attack, stroke, cancer, liver disease, car accident, suicide, or murder. Along with this, Spirit teaches me to look very deeply into the bodies of the living. He promises that once this training is concluded, I'll be able to scan and see inside anyone with extreme accuracy. Whenever I get tired or want to do something more fun, Spirit tells me, someday you'll be performing scans on people that will mean the difference between life and death. You will be able to tell if a person's lungs are about to collapse or an artery is about to clot and shut down someone's heart. Once I reply, who cares? Why does it matter? Why should I care? You must care, Spirit responds. What all of us do here on earth matters. The good works you perform matter to your soul. You must take this responsibility seriously. Self-healing. At age 9, while other children are riding bikes and playing baseball, I'm constantly witnessing disease in the people around me and listening to Spirit of Compassion tell me what's needed for them to get better. I'm learning what adults don't know to do for their health and exactly what actions they should take to heal. At this point, I'm so filled with health-related knowledge and training that it's hard not to start applying it. One opportunity arises when I get sick myself. Eating out with my family one evening, I ignore Spirit's usual dietary recommendations and warnings and eat a dish that gives me food poisoning. I choose the dish because at this age, I have a sense of safety knowing that if I get sick, I have Spirit to help me. This is not a wise way of looking at things, I quickly learn. Spirit allows me to experience this key life lesson for myself, that having Spirit to help me doesn't mean I'm not going to experience discomfort or pain from my own poor decision. When I fall ill from the food, I think, okay, it's food poisoning. I'm going to get over this in a day or two. Then it persists, each day running into the next. Before I know it, almost 2 weeks have passed. I lie in bed in agonizing abdominal pain. My parents take me to the doctor's office and even the ER one night when it gets really bad, hoping for any form of relief. But the fever and the pain in my gut don't stop. Finally, Spirit of Compassion cuts through my delirium and tells me I'm going to need a mono-eating protocol to rid this specific strain of E. coli bacteria from my body. He gives me a direct order to go to my great-grandfather's house and pick a box of heirloom pears from his tree. Spirit says I'm to eat nothing but these ripe pears and I'll heal. I do as he says and recover rapidly. Fire him, God. At age 10, I try to go over Spirit's head and deal directly with his boss. I'm getting a little older. I've been in this for 6 years by this point. I decide it's finally time. I figure I can't tell God what I want through prayer because Spirit of Compassion will hear me. So I climb some of the highest trees I can find to get as close to God as possible and carve messages in their trunks. One of the first messages is, God, I love Spirit, but it's time we cut out the middleman. This is followed by some serious questions. God, why do people have to be sick? God, why can't you fix everybody? God, why do I have to help people? While these seem to me very reasonable things to ask, I receive no answers. So I find some even more dangerously tall trees, and I climb to the highest branches in hopes that my recklessness will get God's attention. This time I carve requests for direct action. God, please give me back silence. God, I don't want to hear Spirit anymore. Make him go away. As I carve in the words, God, let me be free, I lose my foothold and almost slip off the branch. Not that kind of free, I think. I inch my way back down to safety, defeated. None of these messages makes any difference. Spirit just keeps talking to me. If he's aware of my attempts to subvert his authority, he's gracious enough not to mention it. There's more important work at hand. First clients. At age 11, I want to do something productive and fun that'll take my mind off the voice by my ear. So I get a job carrying clubs at a golf course that's a 10-mile bike ride from home. My gift is not so easily abandoned, though. While caddying, I can't help telling golfers about their conditions. I often know about their stiff joints, bad knees, sore hips, hurt ankles, tendinitis, and more before they do. So I say, your swing's a little off, but that's not surprising considering your carpal tunnel situation. Or, you'd do better if you dealt with your inflamed left hip. They look at me with amazement and ask, how did you know that? Then they request advice on how to get better, and I tell them what to eat, what changes to make to their behavior, therapies to try, and so on. The recommendations Spirit offers are often head-turners because these are still the earlier days when even the slightest healing food advice is shocking. After caddying for several years, I crave a change. I decide that if I'm going to share Spirit's recommendations for food and supplements for healing, I might as well work in a place that sells them. So I get a job as stock boy in a local supermarket. The people who rely on Spirit of Compassion and me for help come by whenever they like, and I take time out of replenishing shelves to help them. The owner of the supermarket doesn't mind that my work for him is periodically interrupted, because I'm bringing in new customers. Besides, I'm helping him too. Whenever someone asks how I know what I know, I answer, Spirit of Compassion. It's a little odd talking someone through their gastritis in a supermarket aisle. It's also difficult because supplements are barely available yet, and the variety of food with specific medicinal qualities is limited. Spirit keeps explaining that in a couple of decades, stores will supply many more options for people's health. In the meantime, he helps me get creative with healing plans, such as juicing celery for people's ailments, which I do right there in the store. I love being able to hand someone exactly what she needs to get better. With great power comes great guilt. At age 14, I sometimes sit in a bus or a train, and there goes Spirit of Compassion again, bringing up some health issue with the guy in front of me. So I tap him on the shoulder and tell him about it. At times, the response is gratitude. Other times, the reaction is to accuse me of invading his privacy. "Do you know my doctor?" some people ask. "Did you get a hold of my medical records?" That's a lot of distrust and hostility to deal with, especially since we haven't yet entered the internet and digital age, and medical records aren't computerized yet. They're all on paper, locked far away in doctors' offices. As I grow older, I learn to be careful about who I try to help unasked. If I see someone regularly, I still feel impelled to share what I know. So I develop the habit of first asking Spirit of Compassion to read someone's emotional state to determine whether they're approachable. That cuts down on the number of uncomfortable situations. If someone's a stranger, I'll usually keep whatever I'm seeing to myself. This becomes a burden, though. When I'm a teen, I start feeling even more accountable for my actions. So if someone is in danger of kidney disease or has cancer, and I do nothing, part of me feels it's my fault if the person ends up seriously ill or dead. When this is multiplied hundreds of times a day, the sense of guilt and responsibility becomes overwhelming. Escape attempts. As my teenage years continue, life becomes more difficult. For instance, most people watch television to relax and escape, but when I watch, I receive health information from Spirit of Compassion about everyone on the screen. Spirit prompts me to automatically scan the condition of every person I see who needs help, whether they know they have a condition or not. When that happens over and over, TV is draining, not fun. It's even worse when I go to a movie theatre. I'm uncontrollably scanning the health of every person in my row, the row in front of me, the row in back of me, and so on. And that's not the end of it. I scan the health of the people in the movie. I'm able to determine the condition of each actor during the time the film was shot, as well as the health of the actor in the present moment. Imagine what it's like to be at a movie and get bombarded by medical information about the people around you and up on the big screen. Considering the last thing most teens want is to feel different from everyone else, this period is especially rocky. My feelings of alienation and being overwhelmed by responsibility lead to some rebellious teen impulses. I pursue various ways to escape my gift. I start spending a lot of time in the woods. I find nature soothing and especially appreciate the absence of other people. With the help of Spirit, I learn to identify different species of birds during the day. At night, he teaches me the names of stars, both what scientists call them and the names God has given them. It's not fully an escape, though, because Spirit also teaches me how to recognize herbs and foods growing around me. Mullein, yellow dock, plantain, dandelion, burdock root, wild rose hips and petals, wild apples, wild berries, and how to use them for healing. I also develop an interest in repairing cars. I like fixing up mechanical objects because they don't require me to become emotionally involved. Even if I fail to repair a junker Chevy with a bad engine, I never feel remotely as awful as I do when I can't help people, because they're in too advanced a stage of disease to be healed. But this hobby doesn't go as planned either. People start noticing what I'm doing and coming over. "Wow, that's amazing! Can you fix my car?" I don't have it in me to say no, especially since Spirit is doing the hardest part, which is figuring out what's wrong. One day when I'm 15, my mother and I stop at a station to get gasoline. I walk into the garage and find a bunch of mechanics staring at a car as if they're trying to solve a puzzle. "What's going on?" I ask. One of the men says, "We've worked on this car for weeks. It should run perfectly, but we can't get it to start." Spirit immediately tells me the solution. "Open up the wire harness in the back of the firewall," I pass along to the mechanics. "Buried in dozens of other wires, you'll find a white one that's broken. Put that wire together and the car will run fine." "That's ridiculous," says another of the men. "What's the harm in checking?" asks the first one. So they go in, and sure enough, there's a white wire broken in half. They look at me with their jaws hanging open. "Are you the owner of this car?" asks the skeptical mechanic. "Or are you a friend of his?" "No," I reply. "I just have a knack for these things." In a minute, they fix the wire and try the car again. It starts up perfectly. One of the mechanics starts dancing around. Another calls it a miracle. Word gets around, and soon a bunch of garages in my town, and also several neighbouring towns, use me as the go-to guy for troubleshooting seemingly unfixable vehicles. When I show up to assist on a job, the mechanics who called me, much older guys with years of experience, are always incredulous. "What's this 15-year-old doing here?" they all ask. When I get the job done, though, they change their minds. So instead of escaping responsibility, I gain more. On top of healing people, I become a car doctor. The last straw is when I realize how emotional people are about their cars. A lot of times, they're even more invested in their car's well-being than in their own health. At that point, cars stop being fun for me. I try some other distracting activities. For example, I join a rock band because loud music helps drown out Spirit's voice. Spirit does not appreciate this. He patiently waits until I'm finished making a racket, then resumes his commentary on the health of those around me. Nothing really works to make my gift go away. It becomes increasingly clear that I'm stuck with Spirit and my ability and can't escape the path that's been laid out for me. Starting to commit. By the time I'm a young man, thanks to my training with Spirit, I've indirectly scanned and received health information from Spirit of Compassion on thousands of people and helped hundreds along the way. One day I think, okay, this is the hand I've been dealt. I have a special purpose. I just have to accept it. For now. I also think, this can't possibly go on forever. At some point, I'll have fulfilled my responsibilities and will be set free to live a normal life. Spirit has never said any such thing to me, yet I need to believe it to keep going. In my early 20s, I begin dedicating myself in earnest to what Spirit has repeatedly told me is my destiny. I wholeheartedly open my door to sick people who come and see me for help, discover the true root causes of their illnesses, and tell them what Spirit of Compassion says they need to do to become healthy. And despite my griping about the various stresses I've endured, it's fulfilling work. It feels good to watch people heal and get their lives back. In these early days, sometimes what I can do is so empowering that I let the feeling of being all-knowing go to my head. A good example is the time my neighbour approaches me about his wife, who can't walk or use her legs. She's been to dozens of doctors, and none of them have helped. My neighbour tells her, "Look, Anthony seems to know a lot about this stuff. Let's take a chance." When they ask me what the problem could be that doctors can't seem to find, I ask Spirit, who informs me that she has arsenic poisoning, traces of arsenic in her brain that have come from their well. Shortly after, a well water analysis confirms the presence of arsenic. Her doctor then performs a blood test, which shows unacceptable levels of arsenic in her blood. With Spirit's recommendations on how to remove the toxic heavy metal from her system, within a year she's able to walk again. I'm in my garden pulling up some onions for a salad. It's one of my favourite herbs to grow. When my neighbour comes around, "I just want to thank you again, Anthony," he says. "We went all over the country to meet top experts and they couldn't do a thing. It doesn't make any sense. Somehow you knew exactly what was wrong and what she needed. I don't know how it's possible. You're not even a doctor." I look at him with onions in my hand and say, "It's because I'm always right. I can fix any problem because there's nothing I'm wrong about. Just remember that. I'm always right and will always be right." Then I turn around, walk a few feet, and turn back to say, "And don't forget it," when I step on a rake that slaps me in the face so hard it knocks me out. As I lie on the ground, my concerned neighbour rushes to my side and stands over me. In my dazed state, I think he's my constant companion. "Spirit?" I ask. Spirit of the Most High replies, "I'm always right. You're always wrong. Remember that. I'm always right. You're always wrong." Whenever I get carried away, I think of that moment. It's a reminder that while some of the things I do as a healer with the power of Spirit might be considered miraculous, I'm still a regular guy who can miss the mark if I'm not listening to what Spirit has to say. The turning point. When I'm a young adult, Spirit assumes I've passed the crisis point that led others with my gift over the centuries to end their lives. He assumes I've accepted that using my abilities to heal people is what I'll do for the rest of my life. Which goes to show that even Spirit of the Most High can't predict everything when it comes to free will. One day in late fall, I'm at a retreat by the water with no one but the woman I plan to spend my life with, and my dog, August, short for Augustine. I've had August for a year and I'm very close to her. She's replaced my family dog who was with me for 15 years. Just like that dog, August is essential to my sanity. We're sitting by a large, deep bay. The water is icy cold and the current is strong. It's our last day. With great reluctance, we start getting ready to leave the peaceful isolation of this place. Suddenly, with no warning, my dog jumps into the bay. I sense she's picked up on my feelings. This is her way of saying, "We don't have to go, let's stay here and keep playing." Unfortunately, both the cold and the current take hold of her. She immediately starts slipping from us. We stand on the shore, screaming at August to come back. I throw stones into the water to try to lead my dog back to me. This is our special signal. Whenever I splash stones in the shallows, she returns to shore. But today, the current pulls her farther and farther away. August goes 50 feet out. I see her struggling to get back and losing the battle. Then the cold freezes her so thoroughly that she stops paddling and goes straight down. I toss off my jacket, boots and pants and jump into the freezing water. I've swum 15 feet out when Spirit of the Most High says, "If you keep going, you are not going to make it." "It doesn't matter," I yell. "I'm not abandoning August. I have to save my dog." I swim another 15 feet and then the merciless cold water takes over. My body goes numb. Spirit says, "You've done it now. You cannot turn back and you cannot go forward. This is it." "Really? You robbed me of a normal, peaceful life. I dedicate my whole being to your work of healing, and this is all I get from you? You say, this is it, and leave us to die? All the angst and anger I've suppressed since I was 4 years old comes pouring out. I let Spirit have it about my years of pent-up frustration over this continual torture I've always had to accept as a gift. Being set apart from everyone else, knowing too much about everyone at way too early an age, and being told what I had to do with my life, instead of given even the slightest choice. I tell Spirit, I put up with a lot, sacrificing my childhood, experiencing everybody's pain and suffering, taking responsibility for healing thousands of strangers, and draining myself physically and mentally every day. And now you're telling me I can't even protect my own family? No, damn it! I shout as the freezing waves threaten to engulf me. If this is how you want me to end, Spirit, so be it. I'm getting my dog back or I'm going down with her. A very long second passes. Numb and exhausted, I realize that I may have finally pushed things too far. A few more moments without help, and I'll be following my dog August into the depths below. I turn my head toward the shore to get one last glimpse of the woman I plan to spend the rest of my life with. Spirit says, you need to swim out 20 more feet. In shock, I shout, how? To my great surprise, I feel renewed strength. I resume swimming. In my mind, I continue to yell at Spirit that I deserve to survive this with my dog. Otherwise, we should both die. Spirit says, I will get you to your dog. In return, you must commit to me. We go through this life the way we're supposed to. You accept that it is by the holy power of God you are destined to do this work for the rest of your life. Okay, I shout. Deal! Let me find August and I'll work for you with no complaints ever again. I swim the additional 20 feet. Spirit says, hold your breath and go 8 feet down and then open your eyes. As I hold my breath, a surge of power courses through my body. All of a sudden, I can feel my legs again. I swim what feels like 8 feet down, open my eyes, and see an angel. I've never encountered an angel before. I'm seeing what looks like a woman who has no trouble breathing underwater, with a glorious source of light behind her. Light radiating from her eyes, and huge, beautiful wings of light growing out of her back. There's no question she's a divine being. And in her arms is August, surrounded by a beautiful, peaceful light. For a moment, it feels like time stands still. My vision is surprisingly clear underwater, and I have no fear or trouble holding my breath. I grab my dog by her collar, then something pushes me upward with her. We both reach the surface of the water. The bay is still icy cold and the current is still trying to violently pull us away from land and life. The wind is blowing strong. When I open my eyes again, I see Spirit for a moment standing right above the water. It's the only time I've seen Spirit since that first day he appeared to me at age 4. We don't have much time, he says. The angel is leaving. Just as I register once again that all could have been lost, another surge of power charges through my body. As I start swimming back through the frigid waters, holding on to August who seems lifeless, it feels almost as if I'm being pulled across the 50 feet to safety. My dog and I soon make it back to shore, and to my future wife who is crying with relief. As I drag myself and my dog up to the rocky sand, I cry in agony, not because I'm feeling the initial stages of hypothermia, but because I'm afraid my dog is gone. All I can think is, let her still be alive. She opens her eyes, gasps for air, and comes to life. The sun appears from behind the clouds, and a streak of light races across the water and shines on my dog, August. I look at the light and say, "Spirit, thank you." And I realize this is the first time since Spirit entered my life that I've ever thanked him for anything. The battles I've waged with Spirit of the Most High since I was 4 years old have to end. It's time for me to acknowledge the cards I've been dealt. Even before this point, people in need have been coming to me in droves. With this pledge, I wholly dedicate myself to helping them, without reservation and for the rest of my life. I don't have to pretend the abilities I've been granted are a problem-free blessing, yet I stop complaining and finally accept who I am. That's when I truly assume my role as the medical medium. The commitment. When I committed to what Spirit of Compassion wanted of me, he helped me develop a routine for fulfilling it as efficiently as possible. I never had to be in the same room with a person to perform a scan, so I arranged to speak with people in need by phone. This allowed Spirit of Compassion to help anyone in the world, regardless of location, and it minimized the transition time. Spirit of Compassion helped tens of thousands of people this way. When I performed a scan, Spirit of Compassion would create a very bright white light that let me see into the person. While that was critical for obtaining what Spirit needed from me as the medical medium, the intensity of the light created a kind of snow blindness that temporarily impaired my vision in the real world. And it accumulated as the day went on if Spirit wanted me to scan more and more people. When Spirit and I finished helping people for the day, it could take a little time for my sight to return to normal. As a side note, I bring my assistant with me whenever I go somewhere that will have a lot of people, because I may lose a substantial portion of my sight due to automatic scans. For example, whenever I have to fly somewhere, I end up inadvertently learning about the health conditions of everyone on my plane. By the time we land, I could be partially blind, so I need my assistant to lead me around until the effect wears off. A deep and comprehensive view of a person's condition could sometimes take minutes. However, when doing this throughout the years, it would take 10 to 30 minutes or more to explain what discoveries were found, as well as advice for healing and how to work with their doctor. Sometimes Spirit of Compassion would need to spend time bolstering or reconstructing someone in need. That's because Spirit cares about more than just people's physical illnesses. Soul, heart, and spirit. When Spirit of Compassion delivers information in a scan, we see beyond a person's physical health. I also witness the person's soul, heart, and spirit. These are 3 entirely different components of a person's being that are often considered one and the same. Even if your soul's been battered and your heart is faint, your spirit can keep you physically going while you look for opportunities to heal. For example, sometimes Spirit of Compassion wants me to tell a very ill person to start walking, go out to watch birds and look at sunsets. That helps the person regain her or his spirit, and that can be the start to rebuilding the heart and soul. You'll find much more about your soul, heart, and spirit, as well as essential techniques to heal and reclaim those parts of yourself, in Chapter 24, Soul Healing Meditations and Techniques. The one and only medical medium. While there are obvious disadvantages to having a voice continually talking into my ear, there are also some advantages. Because Spirit of Compassion is distinct and separate from me, it doesn't matter if on a given day I'm feeling upset or ill or bored. Spirit is unaffected by my emotions and will consistently provide powerful, advanced information, ahead of medical research and science, about chronic illness and how to heal. It's the same process as when I was a child. Regardless of what my life struggles are, even if I'm in no condition in the moment to process what Spirit of Compassion is telling me. For example, if I only had 2 hours of sleep because of certain challenges occurring in life, the information will still come through. Focusing and concentrating on the intricate specificities takes work. I don't have to use my intuitive skills. I don't channel the information either. Other mediums sometimes hear inner voices, but mine isn't internal. People seeking help ask me, "Should I take off my jewelry to allow you to get a better read?" It doesn't matter if they're wrapped in tin foil. The information is still going to come through and they're going to get the answers they need to move forward. I'm often asked if Spirit of Compassion can help me with my family, loved ones, and even myself to get physical and spiritual information. The answer is yes. Again, because Spirit is separate from me, all I have to do is ask, and he tells and shows me what is best to know. This is one of the things that makes this gift unique. One day, a skeptical reporter demands I give her an answer on the spot. "I want you to tell me where it hurts. Does it hurt in my toe, my leg, my stomach? Does it hurt in my arm, my butt? Do I even hurt at all? Let's see what your voice says." Spirit of Compassion immediately tells me, she does hurt. She hurts on the left side of her head. Chronic migraines torment her. I reach over, touch the left side of her head, and say, "Spirit tells me you hurt here." She starts crying. That's the level of instant accuracy Spirit provides. If I get a call at 2 a.m. from a mum whose daughter is about to go into emergency surgery, and the mum wants to know if it's the right choice, I have to be able to help the doctor determine in that moment if that little girl merely has a bad case of food poisoning, or if her appendix is about to explode. It's important to see whether someone's recovering or is bleeding internally. If the child's fever is due to the flu or meningitis, if someone is suffering from heat sickness or is about to have a stroke. Spirit of Compassion delivers this information every time so it can be conveyed to their doctor. Padre Pio and Edgar Cayce, those famous mystical healers of the 20th century, were the only 2 medical seers in recent history who accessed the level of compassion that Spirit demands of me. Their work as compassionate healers was in some ways similar to mine. However, our strengths and gifts are unique to each of us. To be a compassionate healer of any kind, you have to adapt to each unique symptom, condition, or emotional injury to alleviate that person's pain and suffering. Spirit tells me this compassion is the most important element in healing. Spirit of Compassion still tells me that no other medium does what I do. No one else alive has a voice providing profound, advanced, on-target medical information with crystal clarity. Spirit of Compassion's information about chronic mystery illness changes people's lives in a way nothing else has in our modern history. I've devoted my life to this work. I'm here as a messenger. It's who I am. People told me as a child that I have a gift. As the years went by, Spirit of Compassion made something perfectly clear. The gift was never mine. It's for the ones in need, the ones who struggle, suffer, and are searching for answers. This gift is for you. Whatever you're facing, you're not alone in it, and it's not meaningless. Always remember, you have a life ahead of you, years to come. Everything can change in the days ahead. Anthony William, Medical Medium.